You've felt the echo of a sound you've never heard before, haven't you? A vibration that tears through time, hinting at a glitch in the fabric of reality? If so, you're tuned to the right frequency. And that's a problem. A very big problem. Because, somewhere, in the depths of our collective memory, the city of Oakburn still hums with a melody. A melody that should never have existed in 1987. Oakburn was like any other small town sleeping under the sun in the heart of rural America. Peaceful, with its slow rhythms and the promise of a predictable tomorrow. Kids played on dusty streets, neighbors exchanged pleasantries about the weather, and the future seemed like a straight line with no sudden turns. Local radio stations played the hits of the era. The dial was an ocean of familiar songs and comforting voices. But one autumn day, the air changed. A new frequency, a new tone, began to seep into the airwaves. At first, it was almost imperceptible. A strange murmur, a slight distortion in late-night programs, attributed to technical glitches or atmospheric interference. The sound engineers, the radio amateurs, all tried to rationalize the unusual. But the melody persisted, gaining clarity. It wasn't a song. It had no lyrics. It was a sequence of notes that felt fundamental, as if it were a code, a rhythmic pattern that didn't fit any human composition. They said it was gentle at first, almost hypnotic. A long note, followed by an ascending arpeggio and a pause that lasted a little longer than expected. It was in the cold dawns, when the silence of the city was deepest, that the melody manifested in its entirety. The first transmissions were sporadic, but soon it was on every station, on every radio, on every cassette tape that anyone dared to play. People began to complain of insomnia, of vivid and repetitive dreams where the same notes echoed. Some reported a strange sense of euphoria, followed by a deep melancholy. Others, an uncontrollable urge to follow the melody. The initial cases were isolated. A man found miles from his home, muttering the rhythmic pattern. A woman who left an enigmatic note about a new journey before disappearing without a trace. No one connected the dots. Not immediately. The human brain is excellent at rationalizing the unexplainable. Until it couldn't anymore, the Oakburn melody, as it would be called in confidential government files, reached its peak of propagation. It didn't matter if you turned on the radio, the TV, or even just walked down the street. The sound was there, seeping into the walls, the ears, the mind. An internal resonance that seemed to awaken something primordial, something ancient and thirsty. The reports became more alarming. Entire families disappeared from their homes, leaving behind unfinished meals and unlocked doors. Cars were found, abandoned on back roads, with keys in the ignition and the radio on, playing that melody. Authorities tried to intervene. The police sealed off the city. The National Guard was called in. Orders to do not listen were issued. But how do you turn off something that is already inside your head? The melody didn't need a physical transmitter. It seemed to have rooted itself in perception itself, in the very fabric of being. People looked at each other, neighbors looked at neighbors, and in their eyes, there was a strange serenity, an acceptance. Then, the walk. Hundreds, then thousands, began to move. Not running in panic, but walking in a line, in silence. Without luggage, without goodbyes, without a word. Just the march, a steady rhythm set by the invisible melody. They headed for the dense forests around Oakburn, and no one who followed that march was ever seen again. There were no signs of a struggle. There were no bodies. Just the void. The vacuum left by the absence of thousands of lives. The melody seemed to have summoned a migration to nothingness, an exodus to the threshold of existence. The few who remained were the immune. Those who, due to some inexplicable flaw in their neurological makeup, were unaffected by the call. Or those who were fast enough to seal their ears, break their radios, or who lived in areas with zero reception. They are the only living witnesses to what happened in Oakburn. And their accounts are fragmented, filled with trauma, punctuated by silences where memories refused to fully emerge. The government intervened more aggressively. The city was evacuated, isolated, and classified as a containment zone. All recordings of the melody were supposedly destroyed. Local newspapers were censored, news falsified to cover up the truth. The immune were subjected to rigorous interrogations and surveillance. But you know how it is. Nothing can be completely erased, especially when something was so fundamental. The Oakburn melody did not disappear. It was suppressed, hidden. But sound, like a repressed memory, has a strange ability to resurface, to find new avenues of transmission. Maybe not on an old radio, but on a digital frequency, in white noise, in a whisper of code. Those who lived through that time, who remember what happened in 1987, live in silence, hoping the melody is never played again. But what happens if it finds a new home, a new platform? What happens if, in a digital whisper, the Oakburn frequency is activated again? To not miss any of our transmissions and understand the true glitches in reality, consider subscribing to this channel now that we live in an era of sensory overload. Sounds and images compete for our attention every second. But if you listen carefully, if you truly allow yourself to tune into the lowest frequencies, into the distortions that most people ignore, you will start to notice the patterns, the repetitions, the anomalies. Maybe you've already heard a fragment of the Oakburn melody in a forgotten jingle, in a lullaby your grandmother sang, or in the strange hum of your air conditioner at night. Do not underestimate the power of sound. Do not underestimate the power of a pattern. The world is more fragile than it seems, and the borders between the audible and the abyssal are thin. Thousands disappeared. What if the Oakburn melody is just one of many symphonies the void is trying to play? What if we are all tuned in, awaiting our own call? Silence is the loudest thing there is, when you know what should be there. Think about that. Think about the voids, the echoes, the strange pauses. What are they trying to tell you? What are they trying to make you forget? The Oakburn melody is still out there, and it's waiting to be heard again. Don't risk missing the next revelation. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay one step ahead of what lurks in the shadows.